Alright, my cosmic comrades, how are we all doing? Welcome to the Solarpunk Society podcast. I'm Gingerbeard, your host, timeline traveller, part-time numpty, part-time cosmic philosopher. I'm marooned here with you on your version of Earth, which I like to call cyber time. You see, on my timeline, solar time, we already binned the late stage cyberpunk capitalist cult when we voted yes for our independence way back in 2014. Our timelines split at that exact moment, and somehow through some quantum witch-fueled quackery, I've ended up stuck here with you on your cyber time. Don't worry, this wee podcast is our attempt at keeping the solarpunk signal alive. Coffee morning blathers, gingerbeard rants, reaction videos, and pure unfiltered attempts at just trying to shift this world towards something a bit more livable for all of us. Because sitting around bitching about cyber time hasn't gotten us anywhere. So, raise your mug with me, and together, let's stop bitching and start building something for all of us. Let's build the Solarpunk Society together. Let's talk about sex.
Cool, baby. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Okay,
No?
I missed that one. But I was thinking about this the other day, right? Because we live in Berlin, and it's the sex capital of the world in the sense that you can come here and you can a party, you can dress up, and you can do this, and you can do whatever, and find whoever, and you can pay for whatever in Europe.
Or go to the dark room and let it happen to you.
Right, just walk on in and feel a little pinky, just slip on in there, or worse, or better, whatever way you look at it. But is it all a form of masking for a lack of community? But how many people are on dating apps because they really want sex, and how many people are on dating apps because they want validation, which is kind of response to feeling isolated but ostracized?
Or just connection, just physical touch. I mean, I remember a time in my life when I was studying, I was my second to last semester, I think, of my master's. And I spent like half a year without like any physical touch because my best friends had left. We were super like touchy-feely, always like hugging and cuddling and shit. But then I was kind of left with well, they're also good friends, but like we didn't have that close physical connection. And I really missed physical touch. And that was actually, it's funny that you mentioned, because that's the first time I came to Berlin and had this exact experience, a classical club kinky party experience.
So you weren't going to Kit Kat because you wanted to cuddle?
No, not consciously. I mean, who would do that? You're in the wrong place. But subconsciously, I think, there's something to it, because you do crave, you crave skin, man. That sounds weird. Like, I think you do at some point. And I mean, I'm not talking for everybody, of course, but I think it is part of our perceived solution to a loneliness epidemic. Not just for men, for everybody.
Yeah. And especially for men, there's this weird, because we got obsessed, because the patriarchy, particularly, the 60s forward, when the hippies were on the rise, there was a backlash to the counterculture from the culture, which was to just to reinforce that all men that show emotions or touch or dance are clearly gay, and being gay is a bad thing. And so...
Doesn't it mean happy, actually?
Well, it literally means happy, yeah. Gay literally is happy, right? We took a word that means happy, a Victorian word for happy, and we turned it into... An insult for homosexuality.
I love being gay.
Fucking love it. I'm the gayest guy. I'm fucking gay most days. But it's interesting because from that moment, in the 60s onwards, we kind of, well, not from, even before that, it was a taboo to be homosexual going way back to the Victorian times and all that. Although, again, Victorians had this weird thing about sex. They were fucked up with sex. All sex was taboo, but they were all into it. They were all up to all sorts of nasty shit. They were taking cocaine every day. They were taking heroin every day.
Taking cocaine?
From the doctor. All of them are fucked up. Like,
I mean, I know that in the 60s, doctors used to prescribe cigarettes to women to calm their anxiety.
That's the least, that's the most recent one, but the further back I go, that fucked up. They're drug dealers. Doctors are drug dealers, right? Victorian society. So
if you're suppressed that much, you have to have drugs.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Right?
And so you have this massive taboo where you're all fucking fleeing on drugs and alcohol. You've got to remember, like, in very recent memory, most public figures were rat-arsed all the time. Alcohol was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a public... I've seen a thing about the worst speeches that are made in American history. And
Drugs, probably.
well, that's why people were talking about it, because the recent one from Trump was like up there to be number one.
All of his, like, as soon as he opens his mouth,
Right.
it's looking like,
It's just a constant stream of like
put it down the
an
drain.
upgrade to the worst possible speech ever made. But at least back in time, they were fucking rat-arsed when they did it. The guy that took over from Abraham Lincoln, he got shot. So he was such an alcoholic that he never did any speeches sober. He did the speech after the guy got shot in the head, and he was so drunk he didn't even talk about Abraham Lincoln once. He just talked about how good he was, how much people should love him for a whole hour. So anyway, narcissists are quite common in politics. Alcoholic narcissists even more so.
Narcissists often are alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because they have to shut down. They're already trying to suppress everything they are and keep up a mask. So what helps you numb and shutting down even more is alcohol.
Exactly. And it feeds the ego, doesn't it? It's like cocaine and alcohol, good, and cigarettes to a degree. They're all good at sustaining beta wave mindsets, like productivity, ego-driven.
Yes.
I'm on a mission. I'm the best in the world. I'm fucking going to beat every cunt. Anyway, but sex, gays, aye. Basically, you're gay. If you're a man, you're gay. If you touch, you're gay. And so the role that we're given as men in the patriarchy is because, particularly as a reaction to the swinging 60s and disco as well, and the men in the 60s were getting all flower power, and they were getting naked and cuddling for the first time. And so in the 70s, you had disco coming up, and then not only did you have men, you had black men dancing. Disco came from the gay culture, it was from gay clubs that it came from, but it exploded way beyond that. Excuse me. I'm saying that's why straight male culture, by patriarchal culture, had to hammer back to men that if you show emotion, if you show extroversion in your dancing, if you show extroversion in your clothes, extroversion or ambiguity in the gender, in your sexuality, we're just going to call you a fucking poof, we're going to call you gay, and we're going to beat you up. So this cultural reaction to male flamboyance or male expression of emotion, of dance, of gender, of sexuality, any expression of male sensuality, of male spirit, has been hammered down, especially since the 60s and 70s.
We're not liberated. Who says?
Exactly, but at least women are, my point is that women are slightly, at least in that one aspect, have a slightly more privilege. It's more acceptable if you walk through the park with a group of friends like you did, and you're all holding hands and you're kissing and cuddling. But
you need to remember that is because we're supposed to be the carers.
Yeah.
For the kids and for the men, because men are just grown babies. So I think we have to be that. It's not necessarily like a privilege, I feel like, granted to us by the patriarchy. No. It's our given role to be to care, and to care you need some warmth, you need some motherly instinct. You need to care for others. I think that reflects with your friends as well.
So that means that it's tolerated for a woman to cuddle and not be called gay, or to hold hands.
Yes.
It's obviously the patriarchy is not offended by lesbians as much as they are by gay men.
Yes, exactly.
So why though?
Because I think with women, you just associate the softness, you associate touch, you associate, we're like, oh, hey, how are you doing? You know, there's more gentle softness about it. So if women do that to each other, we're so used to it because we see mothers doing that to kids. So a woman is soft, has these, I think, my dress, has these behaviours. So if you then see a woman with a woman, what's my hair doing there?
It's a bit of fluff from the...
If you see a woman with a woman, you might not think, right, oh, well, they're a lesbian couple. They could be best friends.
Holding hands,
it's very
cuddling, it's
exactly
fine.
Because it's ambiguous.
Yeah, but then that's acceptable. That ambiguity is accepted.
Because we like this role in women. We like to see women soft because it reminds us of our motherly. Like, I think it reminds us of the mother.
Of what we want from a mother.
Exactly, like
the mother's energy.
Yeah, this like soft touching.
At no point was it attributed to women that if you show kindness, compassion, touch to another woman, if you got to a woman you don't know and you give them a big cuddle, and then maybe you're like, oh, you look really amazing, I really love your jumper, you look beautiful, darling. You're holding hands, you're absolutely gorgeous, look at how did you do this, or what are you sitting talking about while holding hands? Imagine two men did that. They'd instantly be called gay. They either would be gay or they'd be accused of being gay.
Of course.
But it's just funny to me because what's the threat there, right? So we've came up like, so we see the historical context of it. There was an upsurge in male whatever you want to call it, expression, male sensuality in the 60s and in the 70s, and so that had to be repressed by calling them all gay and making sure that it was an insult, and make sure that it was a threat, an existential threat for men to be considered gay. So that even if you are straight, if you are cis and straight, you're still going to be repressed, because gay men are repressed, right? They are the oppressed, and women are repressed and repressed. But we need to also make sure that straight cis men are repressed and oppressed as well. So it's like the threat of being considered gay is enough for straight cis men to moderate their behaviour, so that even when they want touch and they want cuddles, they want bro love, right? Because the one thing a straight cis man wants more than anything actually is acceptance from their peers, which is often other straight cis men. And the way to show that acceptance would be a cuddle, maybe like women do, holding hands. But they look really good, man. I love their muscles you get at the gym, man.
Oh, they just holding hands.
That would be so nice.
Yeah.
Men would love that. I'm a straight cis man, right? If I could have male friends where I could do this, and we compliment each other, and we go, you look really good now. And I want to massage.
We do give like long hugs, where you do.
You're high, but not when you're sober, man. Not really. Most cis men don't.
You're saying like, what's the threat, right?
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
I understand I think I understand the historical reason for it, but I just think it's so absurd, because surely if the threat is being gay, right, a gay woman is much more of a threat to the patriarchy than a gay man. Because a gay man, well, that's one less competition, right? If I'm a straight cis man...
Depends on how you think.
Well, exactly, but if the patriarchy is built for straight cis men, right? This is seemingly what it's for, right? The system is built to privilege, to lift up straight cis men. So if I'm a straight cis man, then surely gay men, I should be fucking celebrating gay men. I should be like, yes, another gay man.
Less competitor.
One less competitor. More women for me.
But
But lesbians should be the threat.
But the patriarchy operates on violence. You could always impregnate a lesbian woman. She's still gonna have kids, biologically, but you cannot make a gay man fuck a woman if he doesn't want to. But it's gonna be a lot harder. So, according to the logic of a violent system, that is mine. That is one of the reasons. The other reason is that when you're gay and when you live, like, you show that you're gay, you're a threat to waking up all the repressed cis men. And this is what we're seeing now. Why are straight cis men, why are they so fucking loud and feel so, I don't even know what, like aggravated, angry, insulted, I don't know. We're seeing somebody who's flamboyant and who lives a sexuality and who's open and who's colourful and who's gay.
Yeah.
Why is it such an offence? Because what makes you angry is that you see the side in you and you know, like subconsciously, that you are repressing the side in yourself. So I think gay men are a threat to other men, because everybody is gay a little bit, I'm pretty sure. If you're 100%, if you're a straight cis man, 100%, it's nothing anybody's going to trigger in you, because that's just who you are. But I don't think we are all 100% straight.
No.
Nobody is. I don't think so. Maybe some people, but whatever. So obviously, if you're a man and you see lots of flamboyant, colorful gay men being inside their body, having the self-confidence, this joyful life, this expression.
It doesn't threaten your gender or your sexuality.
But what you don't have if you're repressed is expression.
Yes.
So you look at their expression.
Emotion and touch.
And emotion and touch. So I think all of these things, and obviously men, like straight cis men, see that. It triggers something in them. It might provoke, first they're going to get angry, I guess, and then it might provoke some thought, and like, oh, what if I'm not 100%? Then all of a sudden you have a society full of people who are all expressing who they truly are, who can't be, I don't know, confined into this binary system anymore.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder for you to operate as a state, to classify people into male, female.
But is the objective for the patriarchy, we're talking about it as if the patriarchy is one...
I think patriarchy is just it's just another piece in the puzzle of like a bigger state oppression.
Of course, it's intersectional, of course. But within that intersectionality, is the objective to keep straight men only attracted to women, to make sure that, is the worry that actually, if we allow men to show emotion, they'll all start bumming each other and then we'll not have babies, we'll not have future soldiers and future workers? Is that the threat? Or is it actually nothing to do with sexuality or gender? The sexuality and gender thing are just straw men that are invented, and they're just other factors to divide and conquer us, so that as long as we have these little boxes where we hate each other because of those boxes that are invented, they are social constructs, but is that the point? That there's so many stories throughout history and throughout news that constantly show that the most homophobic, whether they're Catholic priests, whether they're town governors and mayors, like presidents, like I say, there's so many scandals and what scandals do they end up being involved in? They get caught up in scandals where they're interacting with young boys or something horrific, but
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Because the more you have to repress something within yourself, the more violently you have to repress this. You project your violent oppression inside of you onto other people,
Right.
into the outside. So of course, like, the people who scream the loudest, who are the most homophobic, are the ones who actually
closet.
Exactly. Of course.
there's a Russian mayor. I remember a story of a Russian mayor who, obviously in Russia, it's the homeland of fucking homophobia, and he made it his thing. He's like, right, everybody, start grassing on your neighbours. If you think they're gay, tell us and we'll arrest them. And if we find that they're gay,
Would you want to recruit them?
well, what he did is he wanted to publicly shame them by bringing the gays to the town square and making them hold a pole while he was going to, I'm not making this up, bare their butt cheeks, and he's going to spank them with a paddle.
If that's not his kink, huh?
It's the most homoerotic fucking thing I've ever heard in my life, man. Like, I mean, that is just, it encapsulates all of it, right? But it reminds me of that, where's he from? Nigerian or?
Free Europe! Free Europe from right-wing extremism. Free Europe from fascism. Free Europe from racism. Free Europe from imperialism. When you do this job, as soon as you do this job, Gaza will be free, Congo will be free, Sudan will be free, Iran, forget about us, don't worry about it. Free you.
Hashtag Free Europe, right? Maybe there's a crossover there between the point he's making about, well, none of these countries are going to be free until until Europe liberates itself, right? So maybe there's a message here for feminism, or for what we call feminism. In the same way we have the anti-globalist, anti-capitalist movement, anti-imperialist movement fighting for the oppressed people of the world. Meanwhile, we're not really focusing on the core rot in the heart of Europe, which has spread to America.
Being ourselves.
It's in ourselves. Can we apply that beautiful message that guy's hashtag Free Europe, hashtag Free Men, hashtag Free Cis Men? I know that can be triggering without the context. Can you see the point I'm making?
But yeah, I do. Or you have to start within yourself first.
But where is the source of the problem?
Well, yes, it's systemic, and then the system gets put onto kids that grow up, and then it's inside you, and then you perpetuate the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we need to start somewhere. It's so interesting, especially if you say, like, okay, free men, right?
Free straight cis men.
It feels like the male loneliness epidemic, where men are like, oh my god, now that nobody likes us anymore, and I'm just gonna sit at home, I'm gonna cry, and I'm so lonely, I'm so destitute. But men don't do anything about it. Again, they just wait for other people, i.e. women mostly, to cater a solution to them and to organize a solution for them. Fuck that. I mean, if they want to change, they need to be the change. Mm-hmm. And I think that the way the patriarchy is organized, men do not.
Could that be a campaign that is feminist at its core, but would encourage men like that who are lonely, who have been sitting in the...
How would you message?
Because it would be a brand. It would be a campaign. Hashtag free straight men.
And you tell them, oh, actually, dude, you're probably gay.
But nothing about that. It's about freedom. It's about freedom, and it's a positive campaign, because I think, talking as a straight cis man, I don't get triggered when women talk about men. When they talk about their personal experiences with men, and they say, fucking, every time I go to a club, fucking men are always doing this and men are doing that. I don't get triggered and go, oh, she's talking about me, or they're talking about me, so I'm going to be triggered and offended. But a lot of men do.
It's because they're the perpetrator too.
Partially, but also because they feel they first of all, they feel isolated, like you said, they feel alone, and they don't have allies, they don't have touch, they don't have that connection like you talked about, that we started this conversation, that beautiful friendship that you had that was touch-based and consent-based and trust-based. A lot of men have never had that in their life. If they have had friendships, it's with other men, and it's been a competitive relationship where they've had to fight either to be top dog, or they've had to accept that they're bottom dog, and they just get bullied a little bit. So a lot of their social relationships are hierarchical, and they've never had a trust, touch, consent-based relationship with anybody.
Except for with women, maybe.
Well, maybe with women, but then they've abused those women often because they've mirrored the relationships in their life. Not to excuse it, but that's just the psychology of it, right? So we know the source of the problem is straight cis men, right? Has it worked?
Well, they're not the source of the problem. I think they're the result of the problem.
Well,
Patriarchy, yeah.
Patriarchy, which is controlled and ran by, not all men, right? Which is the point, right? But so to say it's all men are the problem, or to say it's toxic masculinity, which is misinterpreted by some men to mean that you're saying that, I'm masculine, so therefore you're saying I'm toxic. That's obviously not what toxic masculinity means. It's talking about a particular trait that some people, and women could be toxic masculine as well.
Especially in leadership positions often.
Exactly, right? Margaret Thatcher was toxic masculine, for example, right? So, but forget all that, because that's the classic feminist, what do you call it, male rights activists, MRA, back and forth, right? And that's been going on for decades, and it's been, again, it's another source of divide and conquer, right? It's another source of keeping us apart so that men are fighting women and women are fighting men, even though we're both victims of the same pyramid, the same, and like you said, it's not just called the patriarchy, it's intersectional, it's actually capitalism, it's actually the late stage Pink C cyberpunk fucking cyber cult that we all live under. So it's intersectional, but within that we need to come up with solarpunk solutions, and solarpunk solutions don't ever focus on the negative. We can't say we're anti something, because that's besides the point, because it's a vacuum. You can't fight for a vacuum.
So you want to be pro-cuddle?
I want to be pro-cuddles. I want to be pro-disco, right? So when were those moments in history when some men felt liberated, more liberated? Talked about the swinging 60s, again, sourced by acid and new drugs and new experiences, new music, which then created a new music scene, which then created a new counterculture. So there was politics, there was an anti-Vietnam, anti-war, anti-nukes, CND and all that were all born at the same moment. Meanwhile, you had new drugs, which were mind expanding, LSD, peyote. Lots of people take peyote for the first time. Lots of people take mushrooms. This huge counterculture, which allowed many cis straight men for the very first time to express, to feel free. # free men.
And then what happened though? What happened to all these free men?
Well, the culture repressed them again, right? Because they became the status quo. They got the good job. They get told, get back in the box. But then what happened? So you had this temporary autonomous zone where some men felt freer.
I mean, you might liberate yourself, you might free your mind, you might take drugs, and all of a sudden you feel awful beings, but you still, like the indoctrination you carry within, your imprint is still there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how quickly actually men, although they were liberated for moments or in a movement, were actually dropping their toxic behavior. Because you see this nowadays, you see all those like spiritual people, the spiritual men, singing Kumbaya on the guitar with their long curly hair.
But they're not actually liberated men, they're just predators.
And they're predators, exactly.
Wolves in sheep's clothes.
They have all the good talk, they have all the mind-expanding knowledge, the blah, 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 but actually, they're fucking narcissistic...
Dressed up.
Assholes.
The sheep, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think you can just, like, drug-induce a change like this, but I think it could be a catalyst, and then you would need to accompany a movement like that with real transition. Just like it takes a lot of work for you to... Even like you've been in toxic relationships all your life, all of a sudden you've got
so much imprinting time.
A healthy partner, and yes, while you're healing, you're still toxic because you carry. It's like a hangover.
Yeah.
You carry it forth, and it needs a while until it kind of flushes, and you become a new person.
It's not going to be overnight, and certainly probably during these moments, I would assume, maybe we can check the statistics, I would assume the statistics went down, but obviously it didn't go away. It's not like violence went away, violence against women. We're still, all these hippies were eating meat all the time,
Yeah, that's violence.
A lot of them did go vegetarian, actually. There was a massive, that's what Lyndon McCartney and all the rest of it. There was a huge spike in vegetarianism as well. But the majority of them still eat meat. Probably the majority of them still committed acts of intended and subconscious or unintended violence. but that's not the point I made. I'm just suggesting. I'm not suggesting these were, because these movements weren't driven ideologically by determination to free all humans, to free all beings. It was just
Side effects.
side effects.
Drug abuse.
I'm just suggesting that these are glimmers of hope that we can take inspiration from.
So what would you do today? Because you want to launch a campaign that's called Free All Men or something like this. But you can't really call it
Target is at men. Target is at men. It's a campaign for men by men, because that's the source of the problem. And you're right, men need to sort of fucking shit out, but we cannot sort of shit out. We cannot sort of shit out if it starts with a negative campaign.
That is
if we
true.
start with we're the fucking problem, we're causing all this that. No. Nobody's going to sign up for it, because even though subconsciously they might recognise there's a truth in that, we're not going to sign up to it because our ego is already in the way, right?
What would your goal be? Like, because if you say free all men,
Well, let's look at the examples, right? So the 60s we understand, the 70s was disco that we talked about, again, flamboyant clothes, dancing, expression of body. I knew drunk as well, cocaine, and then becoming into exercise, speed, all came in at that point. I'm not saying these are good things to help what we want to do, but I'm just suggesting all these pivotal cultural changes happened when there was new music, new drugs, new fashions, new expression, new ways of expression, new colours, new technology as well. All these moments happened, kind of like you talk about in the book, like when my timeline split from this timeline, happened when there was a collection of lots of different things all occurring at the same moment, like a crossroads in time, when you have this conflation, or not conflation, there's a word for it. Conversion, no.
Collision, yeah.
When they all come together, right? These moments all come together and you get like a high energy moment, right? And so that allowed my timeline to split from your timeline. But also, I think the 70s was disco, 60s was hippies. The 90s, we had rave, which was the same thing in the UK. Just GD Twitch, Keith just passed away from Scotland the other week there. He's seen it all. He was literally in Edinburgh in the early days before techno and rave had reached the UK really. He was one of the early pioneers that brought it to Edinburgh, and he literally seen it where the clubs were still owned by the mafias and the people that came were casuals, football casuals. He literally was one of the first people to watch that transition. He talks about it in an interview where he watched that transition. One of the early nights he used to play, it was a goth night or whatever else, and he watched, before the transition, you watched Hibs fans and Hearts fans, two rival football teams in Edinburgh, kind of like Celtic and Rangers, but the Edinburgh version. One's Protestant, one's Catholic, blah, 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 same shite, different city. The two sets of fans were kind of coexisting in the club, and then somebody shouted something to do with Hibs, and the whole club got destroyed. Like tables in the air. He thought he was going to die. It was like 50 police to shut the fucking place down. The transition from that to like a month later, when people were taking pills for the first time, he watched those same people, those same Neds, those same football casuals, hugging men, touching, back to what we're talking about. There's these beautiful moments where men feel okay to touch each other without it feeling like, does that mean I'm gay? Who cares? Who cares if it means you're gay or not, right?
So what did you do?
How did it happen overnight? I'm like, well,
where are you at? Like you guys, like guys in general, in Solarpunk.
I think I'm trying to take inspiration from how we did it there. We're not, patriarchy still exists. You know, it's even same in this timeline. I mean, you look at the best 4 runners on Cybertime, maybe the Nordic countries, and just like it is in Solarpunk Scotland, over my timeline, things are improving vastly, but the same trends still exist, because exactly like you say, there is historic trauma here. There's thousands and thousands of years of imprints and trauma to overwrite, and to, well, not even overwrite, because that's overwriting them suggests that you're kind of suppressing it. You've got to let them come to the surface, and you've got to let them release.
You speak a lot about like about orgies and about people like just coming together and having wild sex, and I don't know, liberating their sexuality more than maybe here in Cybertime.
Which kind of comes back to my first question.
So yourself?
Yeah, because there's a really good question you ask, because I guess the difference between the city we're in now and the timeline that we're in now, we're in cyberpunk Berlin right here, right now, in this timeline, in this city. And this city is famous for being the capital of hedonism, sexual expression, kink, BDSM, all that stuff. You want it in Europe, you come here. And I suppose some of those aspects started to happen in Scotland. Like there was free love, kind of like the 60s. There was free drugs because we legalised drugs. Not just decriminalised, we legalised all drugs. And so there was, which ironically had, after an initial kind of spike, actually seen a decrease in the amount of illicit drug use or problematic drug use, but an increase in the amount of hedonistic or recreational drug use. Kind of like the 60s, and those moments we're talking about 60s, 70s and 90s, the hippies, the disco kids and the ravers. So all that kind of mirrors what's happening, has happened on our shared past, also it's happening in Berlin right now. But the big difference, I'd say, and the initial reason I asked that question is, come to Berlin, right, you have all these people coming here seeking some kind of liberation, some kind of sexual, they come here and they go on the apps on Field and they go to the kinky clubs and they get all dressed up and they buy the tiny bits of fucking leather that cost them 200 euros for a couple of spikes, but you know, we spend all that energy and all that investment, all that time, money, and I wonder, I'm not making any judgment on anybody's behalf, but all the people that come here that are involved in all these different scenes, and there must be a liberation of some description. Maybe if you're lesbian, maybe if you're gay, maybe if you're bi, I understand coming to a city like Berlin where you can truly feel not judged. You can walk down the street pretty much dressed however you want. You can express yourself with your partner or partners any way you want, both in public and in private. You can literally, it's not even illegal to be naked in Germany. There's not even like explicit laws against nudity or even having sex in public. There's so much free space here to kind of, I'm not suggesting that you can come and fuck in a public library here. People, you'll still get arrested for it, but I just mean there's just a lot more tolerance for a lot more things here. But my question is it enough? Does it fully fulfill the kind of agenda we're talking about? Free, not just, I mean, free men is a campaign to lead towards free all beings, right? And my point is that in order to free all beings, well, we have to look at the systemic
You have to feel
source.
so you can free Congo.
Yeah, I'm talking as a cis man.
Yeah, I get it.
If women are saying, hey, we can't fucking fix you, and in fact, the whole problem is you want us to fix you, and that which creates a toxic relationship in the first place, well, we need to fix ourselves. Well, we're not going to do a negative campaign, but we need to do a positive campaign. And I think if Free Europe is the solution to freeing Palestine, freeing Sudan, freeing Congo, freeing etc., 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 well, then a similar campaign of free men is the solution to freeing women, freeing trans people, freeing etc., freeing lesbians, etc., etc. So I think the one thing that we have started on, I'm not saying we're there yet, but the campaign that we've started over my timeline, solar time in Scotland, that hasn't occurred yet in places like Berlin, is in Berlin, all of it is still, all of that freedom, all those things we just talked about are all still commodified. Every single one of them. All those relationships, all those interactions, they're commodified. They're commodified in the clothes we wear. They're commodified in the fact you have to go to specific clubs and pay for them. They're commodified in that the apps are incentivized to not connect you, but to keep you lonely. It's been proven time and time again. That's why even when you they want you to pay, but it's not like they want to build this tension so that you pay, and then when you pay, you think you're going to get the release, but it's not. They're called Skinner boxes.
Yeah.
A Skinner box it's this experiment where they put a horrible experiment. But let's say you put a chicken or a monkey or a human in a box, and you give them a button, and every time they push the button, they get a reward, a food reward. So you push the button and a reward, push the button, reward. Well, that's only going to work. They're only going to be incentivized to push the button as long as they're hungry. Because after a while, push button, food, push food, push food. Eventually, you're going to be full and you're not going to be incentivized to push the button. So what they realised is that actually it's much better to keep them hungry. The longer you keep them hungry, but keep them thinking that if I eventually push the button, it will come. So what they do is they push the button, nothing comes. But maybe on the 12th time, the food comes. Maybe on the 24th time, the food comes. Maybe on the 50th. And actually, the longer you build that tension, that sexual tension, the more the person becomes addicted to pushing the button. The chicken thinks, I need to work harder. I need to do it more. And so we go into the game even harder. And these apps are the same. You think that you buy the app and you're going to get the release. You're not. Actually, it's going to be even longer before they start. They could pair you up instantaneously, but they don't. So my point is, we're in a city where there is lots of liberation, but like you said, it's intersectional.
There's behind a paywall, yeah.
Everything's behind the paywall here, and we're fucking skinned. The rents have gone up, the food's gone up, we're all working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but everybody I meet in this city is stressed out to fuck, not because they can't get the hole, you know, or they can't find a lover, or they can't find a sexual partner, but because they're fucking stressed, because everything's commodified, because the all these forms of liberation, sexual exploitation, all the rest of them, if they're behind the paywall, what's missing the fundamental point, which is, well, you're not free if you've got to pay for it. And that's the problem with capitalism, right? And that's the problem with the big C cult, the big capitalist cyberpunk cult. And also, that's where we went different.
Also, I think you're less liberated, you're less thinking about sex if your primal needs, if you don't have money even to buy enough, whatever, food, clothes, you know, health, all that shit. Like, you're not preoccupied about reproduction,
right,
and you can't eat.
Exactly. Try getting horny when you're like, can I feed my kids? No. Try getting horny if you think, can I pay my rent this month? And how many of us, people, especially people with so-called ADHD, that's a capitalist disorder. Because I watched a video the other day from it.
What's disorder? Yeah.
It's a capitalist disorder. I was watching a couple who do ADHD content, and they're talking about their sex life actually the other day in a clip. And she was describing, she's got ADHD and he doesn't. And she was describing what it's like for her when they start to go into that space. They start to play and they start to get aroused, but instantly her mind goes to, what about this? What about, oh, is this being paid? Or is that being paid? All these scarcity triggers.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel safe, it's very hard to feel liberated. It's very hard to explore. If you don't feel back to relax, play, create. If you're not safe, you can't relax. If you can't relax, you can't play. If you can't play, you can't create. And so that applies to sexuality as well. So how do we do it differently in Solarpunk Scotland? How could we do it differently here? And how did we do it differently and are trying to do it differently on my timeline, my old timeline? I think we didn't necessarily start off with the intention of like a free a sexual liberation movement. We didn't set off with the agenda of liberating men so that we can finally liberate women and trans people and our sexuality and our gender and break free from all these constructs that have been holding us back. But it's in the same way that these things are side effects of the capitalist system or the intersectional, oppressive, whatever you want to call it, the cult that we all live under. When you start to remove the structures, the boring things like taxes, like governmental structures, the things that you would never assume are in any way connected to the.
I know they're connected to it.
Right, but you don't. It's not an instant direct link.
Turn up, man.
Taxes are a fucking turn off, right? But when you focus on the government, the taxes, the justice, these are the things that allow us subconsciously and collectively as a group, as a society, as a clan, to recognise, to feel, truly feel that we are safe. Truly safe. Like, because if you have a citizen's dividend, we've got a citizen's dividend over in Solarpunk Scotland, which means that every single month I used to get over £1,000 a month into my account, not as a handout from the government, but as a redistributive dividend. My right as a citizen of my country. Our country creates value, and that value is then, like a shareholder in a company, a corporation, I get a payout at the end of each month from my company or my corporation or my country, however we want to call it. It's not a handout from the government, it's a dividend from our shared project. And so the fact that I know that as long as I'm contributing to my country, I don't mean that as nationalistically, but we're building something together, that we're continuing to grow value, not just economic value, but like shared collective community value, natural value, a sustainable future for our children. If that continues, then there'll be this dividend, like this self-perpetuating, self-fulfilling positive feedback loop rather than a negative feedback loop. That's just one example, right? I could talk about the justice system. I could talk about the tax system, how we radically change the tax system to stop that feel like taxes are leeches that are constantly
hovering,
sucking your blood, right?
You never know when it's going to come for you and if it's going to come for you and how much.
Exactly.
It's going to come for you.
You have to remember all that at the end of the year, and then study all that. And if you get it wrong, not only will you get taxed, you'll get fucking fined as well. We got rid of all that. Nobody does a tax return in Scotland, in Solarpunk Scotland. It's all automated. It all happens month to month.
Can I swap with lo-fi on phone soon?
Can't swap, but we can fucking do it here. But it's just so funny that like nobody would write, no sex therapist. You wouldn't ever go to a sex therapist in cyberpunk timeline and say, me and my partner, we're not feeling horny anymore. We're feeling sexually, we don't have our mojo anymore. And no sex therapist in this entire world, this timeline world, would ever ask, what about your tax returns?
That's true.
Nobody would have asked that. But I bet you your tax return has more impact on your sex life than access to kinky clubs, access to fucking strap-ons, and access to whatever, all the things that a place like Berlin openly gives you access to, provided you have money. Because freedom is only freedom. It's only freedom for the few if it has a paywall. I have the freedom to buy a fucking Tesla car. I have a freedom to buy a fucking a blow-up doll.
And you enact it.
You can't enact it without wing it.
Yeah.
Can't fucking enact it.
I see.
So that's the difference.
So we're sexually repressed because we don't have the money to buy sexual freedom.
Deeper than that. Much deeper than just money. We're not safe. None of us feel safe. Even in Berlin.
That back to the argument that men can't express sexuality, so don't feel safe.
Don't feel safe. We don't feel safe to touch hands, hold hands. I can hold your hand, which is why men are desperate to have relationships where they have a woman that can hold a hand and go feel like they're going to be called gay, or somebody's going to attack them for expressing themselves. But also then that manifests violence, because then they feel like they can, just like we do for birds, we love the sound of their voice, we love the colour of their plume, and then we take them and we put them in cages. And that same thing, that colonialist mindset, that imperialist mindset of taking something that's beautiful and putting it in a cage, we need to decolonise that. We need to decolonise it in how we treat nature and how we treat each other, particularly men towards women. We need that's a process of decolonisation.
Ownership as well, because we think we own our partners, we don't.
Exactly.
No matter whatever gender we are, or what, sexual identity we take on, our preferences, you can't own a person.
Yeah. Can't own nature either. Can't own anything. Ownership is a construct, just like gender is a construct. Ownership, somebody invented ownership. Somebody decided to come along one day and like, see that piece of land, I own that. It's so ridiculous to think that happened, but the only way that could have happened isn't through philosophy, isn't through rational thinking or rational discussion or conversation. The only way that could have happened is through violence.
Yeah.
It's through somebody saying, I'm going to kill you if you come on. I'm going to put a fence up, and if you stick over it, I'm going to kill you.
Some serious mindfuckery. I mean, how could the Portuguese come over to Brazil and just say, oh, this is my land now, hereby I declare this is my land, and then kill other people?
Yeah, with people like, all right, no bother.
And make it their land, like, what on earth?
Yeah.
Like, what's the audacity that you have to claim this is yours? Like, nothing is yours, right?
Exactly. So if we are products of a system that is born from extreme violence, both perpetrated by our ancestors, that we are privileged because of the colour of our skin and where we're born, and me as well, my gender, so I am the benefactor of all that extreme violence in my past, but also some of my ancestors were victims of that violence as well, because I'm working class, I'm Scottish, and other reasons, right? So I'm both a benefactor and a victim, historically, of extreme violence. But violence is the common denominator through all of it. And the only reason we're sitting in this system talking about commodification, talking about all these things, is because these constructs, gender, commodification, ownership, all these things were invented through processes of extreme violence and are perpetuated to keep us divided, so that we perpetuate violence against our peers rather than the people who try to control us. So we fight left to right rather than up to down. I mean, you would talk about left right as if my working class neighbour who's a bit naive and thinks that immigrants are the problem, as if he's my enemy because he's white and I'm not white, or she's she and I'm he, or as if we're the enemy. We're not the fucking enemy.
Yeah.
There's puppet masters up above.
Of course.
But we don't see that because we're perpetually and chronically in fear. And fear is a lack of safety. And so if you're feeling repressed sexually, it's because you're not safe. And so back to free men, talking to straight men, other straight cis men out there, if we can free ourselves, we'll free the world. Because a truly liberated cis straight man is somebody who can enact his true power, which is to hold space for all beings, to see yourself not as like some toxic white knight that's going to fly yourself into some community and tell them how to fix them, like they're talking about putting Tony Blair in charge of the Gaza rebuild, the Trump strip. Right, he's going to
for ridiculousness that we've reached that.
Right, another Viscount, a Tony Blair Viscount, fucking brilliant. Put a warmongerer who should be in front of the Hague in charge of a place where there's literal ICC, orders out to arrest people for crimes of genocide. It is so ridiculous that all that system has to crumble. But we straight white men can be a part of that process. We can not only be a part of it, not as like guilty, like, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive us, but like free ourselves, free our energy, just like those moments in time when we had like a clue, like a taste of freedom, true freedom, not like economic freedom, but like liberation, where we could be a part of all people, be a part of the so-called gay community, be a part of the women community, not as outsiders, but where we go to, in those moments, there wasn't a differentiation. Those boundaries between gay men and straight men came down. Those boundaries between women and men came down. Those boundaries between football teams came down.
And we know that those boundaries, they don't exist. It's just like nationalities don't exist. Everything is just a construct.
That's freedom.
So we start at free men.
Yeah. That sounds controversial, but I mean, I can only talk about myself as a straight cis, and if we free ourselves,
I think you need to free many groups at the same time, but you also need to free men. Yes.
Yeah.
The more constructs we can dissolve, the better.
Yeah. It's just like, what's the heart of it? Just this, it's the same.
But right, there's a lot of violence coming from the patriarchy and from people perpetrating the patriarchy.
Yeah.
And the oppression.
If you believe that the solution to freeing Palestine is to free Europe, then it also holds truth that in order to free women, we have to free men.
Yeah. But in order to free Palestine, you also need to free America and need to free with the US. You need to free the whole West, exactly.
The West, yeah.
So free Europe will be a part of it, an important part, but you also need to free all the others.
Right. But the source of the violence, in order to, it's kind of like they talk about Vipassana, right? He talks about Vipassana meditator. It's not that you're a pacifist. So if you're confronted with somebody acting violently towards somebody, it's not that you don't intervene because, oh, I'm a Vipassana meditator, I'm peace and love, I'll just turn that highly and just close my eyes and meditate.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be a bystander, are you?
No, you're going to be you're a pioneer, you're the first to step in.
Yes.
And you step in and you use hard love. You say no, and you stand in the way and you defend the voiceless, and you defend the vulnerable, and you stand, whether it's animals, whether it's children, whether it's women, whether it's other beings, you stand and you say, and firmly say no. But the difference between a Vipassana meditator and maybe somebody who's interacted there is, although you show infinite love for the victim, you don't only show love towards the victim, you also show the same love towards the perpetrator.
Which brings us back to the point we made yesterday. We have to give Nazis more love. Nazis need cuddles.
It's really triggering for a lot of people, and I know they get a lot of hate of this, but yeah.
It boils down just...
Is it not?
You said men are repressed and violent because they're not allowed to express and receive love as they would need, because they're human beings, they're not just men. So your basic necessity, which is touch, which is connection, which is love. And if you don't get that because you're a man, because you're not supposed to receive it, because that makes you gay, then of course...
You're going to be fucked up. Just like the Catholic priests that all end up becoming fucking paedophiles. That's not by chance. There's this systemic thing in the Catholic Church maybe wants to compromise the priests and all that. That's one way of looking at it, which might have some truth. But beyond that, there is also a thing about repression. If you have an ideology where you take young boys and you put them in a seminary with only other young boys, and then you psychologically, spiritually, and sexually repress them, of course their sexual imprint is going to be towards other young boys.
Yeah.
There's just an obvious link there. I'm not saying all Catholic priests are paedophiles, but a lot of them are, and enough of them to make it statistically not just an anomaly. They're not just bad apples.
Yeah.
So there is something there. If we can study Catholic priests onto Catholic toxicity there, then we can also study the same in the male culture. If there's a Catholic culture in the priesthood that imprints young boys to become paedophiles as adults, then there's also, which basically just means, what is a paedophile? Somebody who enacts extreme violence against and creates victims who was also a victim. Well, then they can say the same about the patriarchy and how it creates those same perpetrators who are victims in all men. If you feel like, yes, you have some benefits from it, you might get some handouts from the patriarchy because you're a man, some benefits, like you might have lots of benefits as a man that women don't have, but it doesn't mean you're not a victim.
Well, yeah, it's like the same with all victims of trauma, no matter what, like, gender or whatever group you belong to, or you sign yourself to. Because all trauma does that. It imprints you in a way that you have to develop some sort of defense mechanism, coping strategy that makes you toxic in some way. And then you go about your life when you're an adult and you put that toxicity into the world because you have become the toxicity. You carry it forward. And until you realize that and you look inwards and you take a step, or you make the decision to change and then take steps to actually reform your behavior to leave that toxicity behind. Until you do that, well, you are the problem. You have become the problem to what was given to you.
Yeah.
But then it's up to every single individual to say, okay, it ends with me. I'm gonna put the foot in that door. I'm the first one to not perpetuate a cycle.
It's really hard to be that person.
It's very hard to be that person.
Especially with no support, when you have a whole culture that rewards you for taking on the toxicity.
Yes.
If we was in a narcissistic society, a broken society, humans are broken. No individual is broken. Even the narcissist,
It's our coping mechanisms.
Exactly. Even the most extreme narcissist is only a reaction. They're only acting in reaction to the culture that they were born into. No child is born that way.
No, we are survivors, every single one of us. Yeah. And some can break free because we've got support from our family, we've got support from friends, from lovers, from whatever special groups that we were lucky to be in for a short period of our life that really helped us change perspective and helped us usher in our natural state of being, and the non-toxic one, so to say.
Exactly.
So yes, I think it's about creating more spaces where we can be soft.
I like that. More spaces where we can be soft. Let's theme it there. That's nice. That's nice.
Well, I really want a cup of tea. It's cold here.
Okay. Some soft tea coming up. Well, that's us for now. Another wee broadcast across timelines. If it tickled your neurons or to give you a wee spark of hope, make sure to do the usual, like, subscribe, but most importantly, share it. Share it with pals, share it with loved ones, share it with family, people that are in need of some hope, a little bit of balm on the existential cynicalism that is pulling us all down into the black hole of this late-stage cyberpunk capitalist cult. Just remember, we're not here to whine about all the menace. We're here to discuss and imagine what we can build as we clean it all up. I'm Gingerbeard, stuck here in Cybertime with you, but dreaming of a bright, hopeful, solar punk future. Signing off until next transmission. Until then, sayonara. Let's stop bitching and let's start building.